To perform this work, you will first need to remove the steering wheel. Please follow the link provided at the end of this video for additional assistance with that task. Depending on the options on your vehicle, there can be multiple switches on the Stalk. Ours has 2 red arrows. The Stalk switches are contained in one unit and must be replaced together. To remove the switches, you will need to remove the trim around the stalks. If you did not disconnect the battery, to remove the steering wheel, begin by disconnecting the ground cable from the post on the battery and placing it somewhere where it can't accidentally come in contact while you're working. To replace the switches, you will need to remove the headlight switch from the trim piece, as well as you need to remove the trim piece to get access to the fog and dimmer switches, yellow arrow. The headlight switch is just to the left of the steering column. You can usually just pull the front of the switch straight off using only your hands, red arrow. If yours is on pretty firmly, use a trim removal tool or a flathead screwdriver and gently pry the knob off. The knob is just held in place by a friction fit, red arrow. With the knob off, you can see the 24mm nut holding the switch in place, yellow arrow. Use a 24mm socket or a large set of pliers and remove the nut, red arrow. If you are using pliers, take care not to mar the dash surface. With the nut off, you can just push the headlight switch back and out of the trim piece. With the steering wheel off, use a Phillips head screwdriver and remove the 3 screws on the column surround, red arrows. Remove the column surround and use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the screws under and inside the column, red arrows. Use a trim removal tool and pop off the trim piece beside the vent and remove the 2 Phillips head screws, red arrows. Using a Phillips head screwdriver, remove the single screw on the end of the dash trim piece, red arrow. Next, remove the 3 Phillips head screws holding the switch trim piece and the vent, red arrows. The vent is attached to the lower vent in the switch trim piece, so they have to be removed together. With all the screws removed, you can gently remove the trim piece from the dash. You are going to remove the trim piece from the other side of the steering column. The trim piece is partially held in place by the HVAC control unit, so you will need to move it out of the way. Be very careful when prying the faceplate off of the unit. It is just held in by clips on the sides, but they tend to break way too easy. Our project car plate was already broken, red arrow, when we got the car. Remove the knobs and sliders by pulling them straight off. You can probably do this with your hands for all of them, but the fan speed control. There's a small light behind the knob, so you want to make sure you take this knob straight off. I recommend you use a trim removal tool and gently pry it away from the faceplate, red arrow. With the knob off, you can see the small fragile bulb in the center, red arrow. Use your trim removal tool and gently pry both ends of the plate off and then work your way around the complete plate until it is all off. Take your time and go slow, as it will shock you how easy it is to break this plate. With the plate off, use a Phillips head screwdriver and remove the 4 screws holding the unit in place. Wiggle the unit out from the dash. You do not need to disconnect it or remove it completely. You just need to move it enough so the trim piece can clear it. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the screws under and inside the column, red arrows. Gently pry the trim piece out from the dash, leaving the switches connected to the wiring harness. Looking from underneath, you can see the 2 electrical connections, yellow arrows, and the 8mm bolt on the Stalk switch, red arrow. Use an 8mm socket and loosen the bolt. Slide the Stalk switches forward while wiggling off the connectors, red arrow. There is not a lot of room to work with the connectors, and they can be a little stubborn. Transfer the clamp over to the new unit, red arrow. Installation is the reverse of removal. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out another video in this series.